And welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is holy fear. What does that mean? How can fear, we often spend a lot of energy running from fear, addressing fear, but perhaps there is a fear that gives us the caution to slow the roll, to stop and pause and reflect. And so that's what we're talking about today. We could say caution rather than fear, I think. Anyway, before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and vigorously rub your palms, your fingers against your palms. Feel the friction, the temperature, the buzzing when you stop. Allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, Gia. So good to have you here this morning. So really wonderful to have you join us. So, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us this morning. We're talking about holy fear. And to recognize, I was reading more of the book, the Einstein and the Rabbi. And it's written by a rabbi who has a spiritual community in LA, I think. And it's a lovely, lovely book. And she was talking about how there are, I'm going to get this wrong. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us this morning. We're talking about holy fear. But she was talking about that there are two gifts from God, two primary gifts from God, being love and fear. And I never thought of that because we've heard if it isn't love, it's fear, right? I imagine you've heard that. But so when there's fear, we transform it with love. But she was talking about how love unchecked can be too much. And I don't know, I'm inclined to think that that's a limited view of love, but that it could be smothering or whatever. I think that when there's smother love, that's not necessarily an expression of love as much as it is attachment. But in any case, or neediness or something else, not really love. But in any case, this notion, it introduced this thought of fear being a gift. And examples of that are when we, in the heat of a moment, when we might be tempted to be saying something that could be really hurtful. And we have that moment of caution that kind of gives us pause, gives us a chance to slow the roll and to step back and maybe come back into ourselves. The fear can offer a check on our behavior potentially. So Gia says, I've heard that faith and fear can't exist together. Means fear is not love, maybe. Yeah, so I think that I get what you're saying and I agree with you. And I think that this is talking about a little bit a different kind of fear than what we generally think about. I think when we talk about holy fear, and I don't know if she said holy fear or I'm making that up. I think she probably said it. But when we think of the fear as a gift, I don't think it means being governed by fear. I think it's more the awe. You know, when you talk about quaking in the presence of the Lord from the Bible, and I'm not a big Bible person or a traditionally religious person, so I'm just making these references because I think that they're probably familiar. But when we, like in a storm, this is my experience of it, like to be connected with primal elemental kind of holy fear. If the concept of holy fear didn't exist for me before this morning, so forgive me if I'm dancing with this with you. You know, I don't really have a clarity about it. I'm exploring it with you. But I remember being on the beach when there was a hurricane brewing and seeing the waves whipping up and feeling the energy of the winds and the sky and the water and the elements, just really feeling the energy of that and feeling a fear, but it wasn't like a cowering type fear. It was an enlivening, invigorating aliveness that was it was awe. It was awe and wonder and like feeling the intensity of this power. You know, again, I'm not a Bible person, but I know that in the face of the angels and in the face of God, there would be the fear and trembling. And it's like the trembling is not cowering, at least in my sense of it. Not to say I'm right, I'm just sensing into it. But it's this awe and wonder and like being dumbstruck, being present to this incredible power. And when I'm thinking about how fear is a gift, you know, like when we walk up to the edge of a precipice and your heart starts pounding as you look into the vast expanse below, that fear is a fear that is potentially life-saving, right? Because it's primal. You're not going to go jumping off that cliff, most likely, right? Because there's this awakening, this call to your heightened awareness that there's danger here, there's something to be paying attention to be cautious about. And we talk about overcoming our fears, but there are certain fears, like jumping off the edge of a cliff, that maybe it's better not to overcome. You know, maybe it's better to be cautioned by that fear as a gift, as something that is awakening you to another awareness, right? Pay attention, wake up. And I think that the examples that were given in the book were about an argument where you might be wanting to say some things, and if there's the fear of how that might impact the relationship, that fear can act as a guide to maybe be cautious in your expression, like to be careful, full of care in your expression, or maybe to not say what it was that you were going to say. So I'm wondering if there are instances in your life where you can connect to fear having been a guide, fear having been something that was a benefit, that was a gift, rather than an impediment, like an obstruction. Have you ever felt that sense of deep awe and just being so moved, like there's a trembling? I guess, it's interesting when we think about fear and trembling. And I'm not talking about whimpering kind of fear. I'm talking about sheer power, where it catches you kind of in the chest and wakes you up to something grander, something greater, something incredibly powerful. I think the places that I've experienced that most are with weather. But so love and fear. I also never understood that polarity, saying if it isn't love, it's fear. And I'm wondering, I know that's part of Course in Miracles. If it isn't love, it's fear. And maybe if we look at fear on another level, fear is a contraction. That was another thing that was so interesting in the book, talking about the creation. This was another concept, and I don't know that I agree with it, but I'm going to put it out there that prior to creation, God was everywhere and everything, and God had to contract to make room for everything else in the world. And that's not my concept, and I actually don't know how that's represented in the Torah, which is the Old Testament Bible of Jewish tradition. I've been having a wonderful, wonderful gift of meeting with a man who is really, truly a brilliant, brilliant Torah scholar on Sundays, and having these very enriching and often confronting conversations, but super powerful, about different depths of meaning that have often been misinterpreted in translations of the Bible. And it's totally fascinating. And I don't know where I was going with this. What was she? There was. I'll come back around to it. Gia says, "Can you just elaborate on your experience where you experienced fear as most beautiful or powerful experience?" Yes. Okay. So thank you for asking that, Gia. There are two times, but the one time that is the most monumental in my memory is I was with two friends near Montauk, in Montauk, I think. We went to the beach, and it was storming. And I've never, ever in my life seen or felt, for that matter, such primal waves. The ocean was churning, and almost you could feel the force of creation. You could feel the potential for ultimate destruction. You could feel not just the power for ultimate destruction, but the power of creation, that it was all in the same thing, that destruction and creation, the energy of it was the same. It was kind of the same energy, this I can't, it wasn't even mental. It wasn't like I'm afraid. It was moving my heart in a way that it just went straight to my heart. It captured my being in a way that was so profound, and it was the energy that made the heart beat, if I could speak that. It was like the energy of the heartbeat of the universe, and it was so primal. Like it was almost as if I'd never seen an ocean so embroiled in my life. And what we did was in the presence of that energy, like feeling that energy, being part of that energy, there was this enormity that somehow infused itself within us. And it was fear and exhilaration all at once. And what we did was we presenced ourselves to the energy that was there in the ocean and inside us, and we calmed the ocean. We just presenced ourselves to it, and with the intention, we calmed the ocean. And it was sheer power. So Gia, good morning, Lisa. So good to have you here with us. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about holy fear. And maybe it is that primal energy, because I believe that love can be that same intensity, that there's a ferociousness that is part of love. So maybe these are the two sides that, you know, one side is called fear and the other side is called love, because love isn't just sweet and kind and nice. You know, love has a ferocity to it as well, in terms of that incredible intensity of light and energy. And Gia says, as fear is a major part of my life, I really love to hear more versions of fear which inspire me. So if we can recognize that energy of fear as, good morning, Bernadette, welcome. So good to have you here with us. If we can recognize the energy of fear as connecting us to a different level of awareness and being, then that can be a profoundly positive thing. Awe and wonder, you know, there's a this goes into a realm beyond words, which is why I'm feeling a bit challenged here. Feeling the connection, feeling the awareness, like feeling the deep profundity of love, that too can become like so overwhelming, so consuming, where you can move into bliss, but there's also this fear of disappearing into that bliss that can arise, or the awesomeness of this glory. And I'm speaking in all these religious words. It's so interesting. Humbled in the light, humbled in the power of nature, where that fear can be something that is so profoundly enlivening, rather than something that stops us. It can be something that brings us alive as well. It's a different level of fear. It's not a fear that makes us smaller. And I haven't thought this through, so it's just emerging in our sharing together, which is one of the reasons that I so love our mornings, because it enlightens me so much about so many things to have these conversations. But I recognize, like, there is this holy fear is the almost heart-stopping, deep experience of something so powerful, you know, something so beyond our ability to encompass or understand, you know. Just, and Bernadette, you got it. The fear of wonderment. So the fear of wonderment, like, wonderment brings with it this sort of, you know, that catches your breath, and this awe of like startlement of the ineffable, something that is beyond description, this awe. I don't think it's a fear that makes you move away from wonderment. I think it is part of the wonderment. And then fear of the unknown, and fear of what ifs, and fear of success. I think that those are kind of different fears. I think that we're talking about different dimensions of fear when I'm talking about what I'm calling holy fear. It's a fear that allows us to be guided in deeper fulfillment, in deeper enrichment, rather than a fear that stops us. And so Bernadette says, joy of empowerment when a decision is made to take the leap of faith. Beautiful, beautiful way of tying it all together, Bernadette. So this fear kind of engenders faith on some level. So in those primal experiences, you know, like the time I was standing by the ocean, and the ocean was just this royal of primal energy. Bernadette says, I'm speaking of all the fears. Yes, well, I am too, but today particularly talking about holy fear. And what is that? And how does that serve us as an inspiration to move us into something, and also to caution us about something that is not, to caution us to awaken, to caution us to be more present and aware. For instance, in a conversation that could be really damaging to relationship, maybe there's this fear that arises that if we are to pay attention to it, it'll let us know to step back a little, that in a way that serves us, to keep us in a greater alignment with ourselves. So I don't know that fear is always the enemy. And fear can inform if we know how to dialogue with it, if we know how, or we allow ourselves to engage with it and say, okay, what's going on? Maybe, what am I afraid of? Maybe I get to be alert to that. Maybe I get to address that fear. Maybe there's something richer available for me here. And then there's this awe and wonder kind of fear and quaking that wakens us into greater aliveness. So, I've done all kinds of things to conquer my fears. I've walked on fire. I've jumped off a 50-foot telephone pole with a harness. So I've jumped out of an airplane. I was very much run by fear throughout most of my life, and I've done these crazy things to face my fears, and so, like, going out of an airplane or jumping off a 50-foot pole, for instance, even, like, there was a fear that, like, my body was vibrating, I was shaking, and I was able to move into that fear. And on the other side of that was a sense of liberation and freedom and release that I can't even begin to describe. So Bernadette says, I've always believed that when fear steps in, it gives me time of pause to resonate in that moment. Exactly. It can be breaking into bliss beyond measure. So I've known of a number of people, Bernadette, thank you so much for saying that, who are in meditation on the edge of bliss, and the fear stops them. And it gives them pause. And it's in those moments that we get choice too, right? But it does give us a greater awareness. In a way, it can mark the moment, right? To say, oh, wake up. Now is a transition point. You get to choose, are you going to go beyond this boundary, or are you going to heed that boundary? And there are some boundaries that ought to be heeded, perhaps. And there are others that are made aware to us so that we can consciously go beyond them. So maybe we get to appreciate our fear and not be ruled by it. Maybe we can receive fear as an advisor rather than something that controls us. And with that, I'm going to call it a morning. the time just disappears with you guys. I'm so grateful. So I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to please check out all the other wonderful programming on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as EWN One with the Earth and Enlightened World Living. And Dido, so good to have you here with us this morning. Welcome. And yes, everybody have a great day. And notice your fear. Like, engage with that fear if it should arise. Engage with it and find a way to make it a friend and advisor rather than an oppressor. So with that, until next time, so much love to you. And I hope to see